So I've got the first problem up on my screen here. You've been doing a lot of triangle problems now for a while here. This one says to state the three basic trigonometric ratios for each acute angle. So we're going to start with D, I guess, and I'm actually make this a little bit bigger here. So we've got to find the sine of D, the cosine of D, and then the tangent of D. Does that all sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
So sine is the opposite over hypotenuse. So relative to D, you have to decide which side is the opposite and which is the hypotenuse. So the opposite's always the one kind of further away, if you will. So in this case, the opposite is 3. Like imagine you're standing there. The opposite is 3, and the hypotenuse is 12. The hypotenuse is always across from the 90.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the cosine of D is the cosine is the adjacent over hypotenuse. The adjacent is the one that's kind of closest. That's not the hypotenuse. So the adjacent is this D to F, which we don't have. Do you remember how to find the third side of a triangle when you know two of them?
Yeah, the Pythagorean Theorem.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared. In this case, we can call D to F A. So that's our unknown. B is 3 and C is 12. So 3 squared is 9, 12 squared is 144. A squared is 135, like that. Excuse me. And then we do have to take the square root of both sides. So A is the square root of 135. This does reduce. Have you guys been reducing roots in your class? I know we did it a couple times a few weeks ago.
Trying to remember if we even do that. We probably do, but I don't
So
know.
this is 3 and 45. I'm just going to give it to you. We got a lot of stuff to get through, so don't want to get bogged down by this. And then 3 and 15. So this ends up being 3 square root 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And the reason we needed all that is because to do the cosine of D, you have to know the third side. You have to know the adjacent side in this case. The
Yeah.
adjacent side is 3 square root 15. Give a little more room here. 3 square root 15 over the hypotenuse, which is 12. Now the tangent of D, do you remember that one from at all? There's the SOH, CH. Yeah, O over A. So it's the opposite. The opposite to D is 3 over the adjacent, which is 3 square root 15. So 3 over 3 square root 15, like that. Okay. Now we have to similarly go over to angle E and find the sine of E. So it's as if you transition. You're like, okay, I'm no longer there. I'm over here at E. The opposite and the adjacent do change. Okay. The opposite to this person here is 3 square root 15. The adjacent is 3. The hypotenuse still stays the same. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. So this is 3 square root 15 over 12. Cosine E is the adjacent to the person over the hypotenuse, 3 over 12.
Okay.
Now, do you see these two numbers, these two answers over on the left side here?
Yeah.
Yeah, notice that there's a relationship here that the sine of one angle is the cosine of the other. 3 over 12 is the same as the 3 over 12. The cosine of D is the sine of E. The tangent is not quite the same. It's going to be the flip of it. It's the opposite over the adjacent. 3 squared 15 over 3, like that.
All right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Great. Number 4 is more of the same. But probably good for us to do another one to get some familiarity with it. So this time we're going to find the third side of the triangle first. I'm going to call this B this time. And you said it before, you said it's A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Yeah.
So A is 5 squared, B is unknown, and C is 9 squared.
Uh,
25 plus B squared equals 81.
yeah.
Okay. So it got to be very important to make sure the legs are on the A and B are the legs. You're going to subtract 25 from both sides. B squared equals
You know, maybe
50.
divide.
Sorry, say that again.
Divide. B
Uh,
squared.
You have to square root, just like in the last one. It's always a square
Oh,
root to
yeah.
undo a square.
I
And
forget.
maybe you do the right thing, but you gotta maybe make sure you write down the right thing. So the square root of 56. Start with 2. The reason we didn't start with 2 in the last one is it was an odd number. 2 only goes into even numbers. We know it's 2 and 28, 2 and 14, and you can keep going, but it ends up just being 2 square root 14. And that is sufficient for finding this third side here. Okay, so let's start with R. I want you, actually, let me reframe the problem here with all of this in it. Ah, come on. Okay, what I'd like you to do is find, and it's so Tato again. I want you to tell me the value of sine R. What is sine of R equal to?
Okay.
Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So here you are at R. Which side is opposite? Which is the hypotenuse?
Well, 9 is the hypotenuse.
Good. So which of these two other ones is the opposite? The opposite is like furthest away.
2 square root of 14.
2 squared 14. Good. Okay, let's do the same thing here for cosine of R. That's the adjacent over hypotenuse.
Uh, 9 over 5.
The adjacent to the hypotenuse can't change. The hypotenuse is always the same in all these problems. The hypotenuse has to be 9.
Yeah.
You said 9 up here. Maybe you didn't mean that, but that's
No,
what.
I didn't. No, I
Okay.
didn't.
And then what goes on the top?
5.
5. Good. And then the last one here, tangent of R. Can you give me that top value first?
2 squared root of 14,
Okay, over.
5.
Okay, now if you notice in the instructions there for 4, which I don't have snipped in, it says to state the 6 trigonometric functions. We've got 3. Do you remember any of the other 6?
Other 6 what?
Well, I'm sorry, there's 3 more. There's a total of 6 trigonometric functions.
Oh, cosine.
We got cosine. Check.
Oh, what's it called? I know what you're asking for because I remember. Yeah.
Yes. So the first one is cosecant of R, and it goes with sine. It goes with sine. It's the flip. It's the reciprocal of sine. So you just flip it. 9 over 2 square root 14. Secant of R is the flip of this. 9 over 5. And then the last one is cotangent of R. It's the flip again, 5, 2 square root 14.
Okay.
So now we're going to look at the same triangle now, the 2 square root of 14, but we're going to now look at it from the perspective of angle Q. So you have to find the sine of Q, the cosine of Q, and then the tangent of Q. Can you give me those values, please?
Yeah.
Take your time here. This is important. It's important that you be able to do them on your own.
Yeah, it's mostly just about remembering it. Wait, so
Exactly. Yep.
yeah, it's just hard to remember that mnemonic. Yeah. Okay, for the sine of Q, would it be 9 over 5, right?
You've got them. You've got them.
5 over 9. Oh my.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now this is we talked about this in the last problem. 5 over 9. Notice that's the same as the cosine of R. There's a relationship between not just the reciprocals, but also 5 over 9 and this one right here, which means that cosine of Q, the next one here, it's going to be the same as sine of R. So the cosine of Q is the same as sine of R. The sine of R, if you look back with 2 squared 14 over 9, is that what this is? Is cosine of Q the adjacent 2 square root of 14 over 9? And it is. Okay, help me out with the tangent of Q.
That. 2 square root of 14 over 5.
So opposite over adjacent, and you're standing here at Q. The opposite, the one that's kind of furthest away. I keep hearing the flip of the answers. That's why I keep trying to get you to
5
come in.
5 over.
Yes.
I don't
So
know.
like
I keep flipping them.
it's okay. Whatever reason, that'll get figured out. But the number on the letter on top literally stands for the one that's on top. Um, okay, let's see here. So now, just like in the last problem, we need to find the cosecant of Q. How is that related to the sine of Q? What did we do in the previous problem with this fraction here?
Flip it.
Flip it. Yeah, so it becomes 9/5. How about secant of Q? What does that become?
Uh, 9/2 square root of 14.
Okay, very good. And how about cotangent of Q?
2 square root of 14/5.
Yes. All right, now you mentioned this to me earlier. You really do have to memorize a lot of stuff for this. Do you get a reference sheet, a note card? Do you get anything to kind of help you with that?
Like remembering where each goes.
Yeah, like how are you gonna, and like that leads me to the question of how are you gonna remember this stuff if
I mean, the mnemonic helps, but I can also, I mean, I'll be able to write it down.
okay, that's good enough. All right, let's take a look at number 6 here. To do number 6, we need to draw a triangle. I'm arbitrarily just choosing this triangle and putting the angle there. Okay, this is just my choice. You could draw it differently, but this is, you know, kind of a standard. You either draw it where the right angle's there or the right angle's on the other side. Now, tangent refers to what over what? Is it opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse?
Or which one?
Tangent. Is tangent
Oh.
opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse?
Opposite over adjacent.
Yes. So relative to the theta here, which letter represents the opposite? Relative to this angle right here, which is the opposite letter?
C.
C is the hypotenuse.
B.
Yeah, so this is 30, I'm sorry, 35/12. I misspoke there. The the tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so if you recall, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Can we find the value of c? Right? Can we use this formula to find the value of c? You have to decide if enough information has been given. What do you think?
No. Well, yeah.
Yes. And you actually do have enough information here. So I want you to put 12 in for a, square it, 35 in for b, square it, and then you undo the square with the square root. This does work out nicely to find the third side.
Wait, 12 is A.
12 is a, 35 is b.
C would be 37.
Yes, very good. Okay, now from here, I'm going to redraw the triangle. From here, we have to find the other 5 functions. So we had 12, 35, and 37. Here's theta. What is the sine of theta?
I don't even know what the sine of theta even is.
What have we been doing the whole time today? What's the mnemonic?
So good. So,
Yes. So when I'm asking for the sine of theta, I'm not asking you for the angle. I'm asking you for the two sides that are the ratio, the opposite over the hypotenuse.
um, 35 over 37.
Good. And let's do the same thing for cosine theta. What would that be?
12 over 37.
Good. And then we were given the tangent of theta, which is 35 over 12. Okay. Now this is just testing your short-term memory. Do you remember the three letters that go over here for the reciprocal of sine? The flip of it? Do you remember what the name of that was, or the letters?
Um, no, I don't think.
I hope you've been taking notes, because it's the cosecant, the secant, and the cotangent, right? Right. I never ask you questions that you don't already have the answer to, because that wouldn't be very fair. So give me each of these values, please.
Okay. Oh. Third for cosecant 30. Wait. I mean. What's the top one? Cosine?
This is cosecant. CSC is cosecant.
Yeah.
Don't
Okay.
worry about how to say it. Just you got to remember the letters we're having on your what is the value? What is the fraction that goes here?
37 over 35.
And how about secant?
37 over 12.
Okay.
And
how about-
then 12 over 35.
You got it. Very good. Okay, so we're ready to move on to a new problem here. Any questions on what we've done thus far?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, so you got your calculator out, or a calculator available?
No. Yeah. Yeah, I can use my phone as a calculator.
Phone's not really ideal. It's kind of the wrong tool for the job. Be like going canoeing in a, I don't know, a raft. Wouldn't work out. So let me drop one in the chat here that's a little bit better to use. It's called the Desmos Scientific. So we're going to first find, the first thing I want you to do here, Tristan, is find the third side here, C. Okay, and this time it's not perfect. It doesn't work out nicely. So I want you to round to the nearest 10th, we'll say. So you're using the a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
The 8.6.
Very good. So C ends up being 8.6. That's perfect. Okay. Now, we have to find either angle N or angle M. And we haven't done this yet, so this is completely new. If we want to find angle N, okay, we can actually use any of the three sides because we have all three of them. All right. So, but we're just gonna stick with, excuse me, tangent for the moment. Tangent of N equals what over what? What are the two sides that tangent refers to?
Uh, T or wait,
TOA, right?
yeah, right, opposite over adjacent.
Yes. Okay. Now, what is opposite to N?
So 7 or
Yes. And then adjacent.
5.
Very good. Okay. All right. Now, we have not had to find N yet. Okay. And to do this, you have to undo tangent. And to do that, there's the trig function called tan inverse. Do you remember that at all from class?
No, definitely not.
Never
Doesn't
seen this
know.
before. Okay, that's not good. We're in the right chapter of the book, right?
I mean, that's definitely chapter 10.
Yeah, then it's never good when it's on the review and you're like, yep, never seen this before. So let me just take another look at this and see if I'm
Oh,
not.
on the review.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, it
no,
does.
I
It is
mean,
on here.
if it's on the chapter 10 review, it probably is just that we haven't gotten there yet, because the
Okay.
chapter 10 review goes over like everything.
So do you have a test though tomorrow or is that
No,
upcoming?
no, definitely not.
Okay, so
My,
maybe we shouldn't do this. We should go back to doing some other problems like 1, 3, 5, and 7.
because honestly, I don't think in class for on that specific section of the chapter yet, because we haven't finished the chapter yet. We're still like in the chapter. Yeah, solving right triangles. Yeah, we're in section 10.2, which is for solving triangles. So
Okay, so you kind of are to this point, so we could spend some more time doing this. Do you think it's helpful for me to show it to you or for you to first see it in class?
I mean, that doesn't really matter, to be honest.
Okay. All right, so you've got that Desmos scientific Desmos scientific calculator up, is that right?
Yeah.
The one I sent you in the link there.
Yeah.
If you Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share that screen and I want to talk you through how to do this calculation that I've got here. So what I'll do first is we'll just do the calculations and you'll get familiar with those. Okay, so the way this calculator works is there's sine, cosine, and tangent right here. See if you're seeing that. You are seeing that, but you don't want those. You actually want tan inverse, and so you have to go to func for function. And you can see it's right there, sine, cosine, and tan inverse, okay? And then if I put in 7 divided by 5, you get 54.5. Okay. Do you feel like you could replicate that calculation if I gave you another one to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the other screen and I'm going to ask you to start doing the calculations for us. Okay, so this angle here here at N is 55.5. So I'm going to grab the triangle one more time here. Okay, and I want us to find angle M. So the tangent of M is opposite over adjacent. So opposite to M is 5, adjacent is 7. So I want you to do this in the calculator. Tan inverse of 5 over 7.
Okay. Uh, I got 35.5.
35.5. Now, I want you to add up in that calculator 90 plus 55.5 plus 35.5.
90 plus 55.5 plus
35.5.
uh 181.
Then we got an error here somewhere. Oh, sorry, this is 54.5 down here. That's my fault. So that it should add up to 180. That's when I got to change up here as well. So that's important. You have to remember that the sum of the angles in a triangle add up to 180. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here's a new triangle for you to look at. Think about here. 3, 4, and 5. And here's theta. All right. So let's say we wanted to find the angle of theta. Can you tell me what two sides equal the tangent of theta? What's the ratio here?
Oh, it'd be um 4/3.
4/3. Now you can use the calculator here to find the tan inverse of 4/3.
Yeah, 53.
Okay. 53 point anything or just 53?
1.
0.1. Very good. Okay. Now to find the other angle, I'm going to call the other angle A. What is the tangent of A?
3/4.
3/4. So how do you find the angle A based on what we've been doing now the last few problems? How do you undo tangent? What have we written here a couple of times?
Inverse tangent.
Tangent inverse of 3/4. Good.
Yeah.
Let me know what you come up with.
$36.8.
Let's go 36.9 on that. Now, could you add up the three angles in the triangle now?
Okay. $127.
The three angles in the triangle, 90, 90. That's not written well. That doesn't come out. 90 plus 53.1 plus 36.9. What does that equal? Try that one more time.
$180.
180. Perfect. Yeah. All right. So the three angles in a triangle always add up to 180. That's something to also keep in mind here. So here's a new problem for us to look at. This time, though, I'm not going to give you all the sides. I'm just going to give you two of the sides. And let's say we wanted to find angle A, and you know that so, TOA is this mnemonic to help you remember what you've got here. So relative to angle A, what is 5 and what is 13? What are they? The adjacent, the opposite, the hypotenuse? What's 13 and 5?
Should be
Adjacent and hypotenuse.
So which of these three? That's correct. Which of these three, sine, cosine, or tangent, uses the adjacent and the hypotenuse?
Uh,
You can just give me the letter. You don't have to say it if you're not
C.
sure what. C. It's the cosine of A. Cosine of A equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Okay. Now, if you recall on that calculator that I suggested that you use, it has three inverse functions. I'm going to snip those in now. It has an inverse function for sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, so for this problem, you're going to use the cosine inverse. So you always, the one you pair it with, the inverse function that you pair it with, is the one that you are given. All right, so could you go to the calculator and figure that out for us, please?
Yeah. Uh, 67.3.
All right, very good. Now let's go to angle B. Let's say we're over here on angle B. 5 and 13 are the opposite and the hypotenuse. The sine of B equals 5 over 13. Opposite over hypotenuse. Excuse me. So B is the sine inverse of 5 over 13. So I'd like you to go to the calculator and calculate that.
Okay, sorry. What's it first? I got 22.6.
No way. It's got to be exactly the same. So let me just check here. I didn't check the first one. Let's see here. Cosine inverse 5/13. That one's right. Okay, try that one more time. Sine inverse, not cosine. You're using sine this time.
And I have sine, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. You're right. You're right. It is 22.6. Sorry. I'm having so I'm sorry. It is 22.6. Do you see that these three angles now, you had it correct. I apologize. These three angles do add up to 90 or to 180 again.
yeah.
That's really important. They always have to add up to 180. I was thinking of something totally different. All right. Okay, let's do another one here. All right, so let's say I want you to find angle A again. I'm sorry, I need to check. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We'll do that this way. Let's say I want you to find angle A again. So relative to angle A, are you given the adjacent, the opposite, or the hypotenuse?
I'm giving the hypotenuse and opposite.
So which of those three, sine, cosine, and tangent, uses the opposite and the hypotenuse?
Sine.
So the sine of A equals 20/29. To find A, we have to undo sine. A is the sine inverse of 20/29. Do you calculate that for us, please?
$43.6.
Okay, 43.6. Now let's go down and find angle B. We're going to say cosine of B is 20/29. So B is the cosine inverse of 20/29. Could you calculate that for us, please?
$46.3.
40 should be 46.3.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay. All right, very good. Okay. All right, so here's a final problem for you to work on here. Most likely. Let's say that this is 8 and 17. I want you to find angle A. So it's just like we've been doing. So Katoa, figure out which one to use, figure out the two sides, and use the inverse function.
Uh, Said 18.7 or 8, something like that.
It is not. We're quite a bit off there. Did you use sine, cosine, or tangent?
Uh, And no, I mean.
You just cosine. So cosine of A equals what divided by what? What goes on the top? What goes on the bottom?
8/17.
Okay, that's correct. So how do you undo A or cosine?
Yeah. Inverse.
Okay, so can you calculate that for us, please?
Um. 61.9 or 62, whatever.
And then let's do B here. Go ahead and calculate this for us real quick. Sine inverse over 17 as well. What does that become?
Inverse. $28.
28.1 maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Okay, so to summarize, we're basically out of time. Go ahead and stop the recording here.